Namaste and welcome to another session in the Hindu Women's Festival by Beyond the Bindi. I'm very fortunate to be hosting this. My name is Sumit Sharma and today I'm speaking to Puja Patel about the meaning of marriage. The Hindu Women's Festival is talking about all things. What does a dharmic civilizational lens offer to the conversation around womanhood? What does Hindu philosophy suggest that we cultivate around spirited women, around the cohesion and collaboration between genders, and also asking questions like what are the most sustainable narratives around femininity? It's often said that marriage is a very important moment in one's life. I think especially nowadays for our females. And I think today we're going to understand a little bit more about what the Hindu civilization says about marriage. And to do that, Puja Patel is going to be helping us. Puja Patel is a health psychologist. She works for a health consultancy. She also spends a lot of time with a mental health charity and is the co-founder of Another Mother Story. Reason I am here today is I'm getting married very soon. And Pooja here got married recently. So hopefully she's going to help me understand a little bit more about the meaning of marriage, gear me up for what I'm about to expect, and help the audience at home understand what the Hindu Women's Festival, what the civilization says about marriage and why it's so important. So tune in further to discuss more. Pooja, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. I think hopefully you're going to help me learn a little bit more about the meaning of marriage. So let's go
Sure.
straight in. I mean, when did you get married? We say recently, right?
Yeah, it was so recently, but it's almost been 2 years now. So yeah, not that recent anymore, but yeah, hopefully it's still all relevant.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And so if we think about all things that it means to get married, and it wasn't too long ago for you, are there any key moments that
Mm-hmm.
you'd like to bring up, or was there something that made you first think, oh, this is interesting. I didn't really know how important this was.
Absolutely. There were so many points in the journey from sort of our engagement up until even now that I'm still learning. Um, a big part of my side of the family, so my parents' side of the family, was to have an engagement. And you sort of think like, oh, I don't want another big fancy event, and but actually it held so much meaning to my parents, and it's been something that's been practiced for generations and generations. Um, so actually, our engagement ceremony was the first kind of big thing that we had together, which united both families.
Yeah.
Um, so
And
so
so,
that was a yeah, so that was a really good so that was a really kind of, I suppose, a fascinating part of our journey. And I think after that things just kind of moved a little bit more smoothly. So
sure.
yeah.
And so engagement, that's there's a few words for that, right? So sagai, roka, taka. So translating through cultures, it's a similar moment. So why do you think something like that is so important, or what is it that it signifies?
So we're Gujarati, so we called it a sagai. Um, I think that ceremony is so important because it's the first time actually both sides of the family are coming together in an official manner. And you want to kind of cement that relationship early on, because marriage isn't just about the couple; it's about both families becoming one. And there's lots of kind of small ceremonies we conducted during the Sagai, one being the Gordana, which is, fennel seeds and jaggery. You feed it to each other, and the seeds represent each person of the family, and the
Right.
jaggery is kind of binding them together. So there was a lot of kind of cultural significance, and again, it's something that's been practiced for kind of generations and generations in a
Yeah.
family.
So that's quite nice, right? So the significance has been brought to the food level, and it's that union that you're
Yeah,
saying. That's sweet, isn't it?
absolutely. Yeah, that is sweet. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so I think, if I think to maybe what a wedding means in the West, it's about the two people, right? It's almost
Mm,
it's their special day. And here you're saying that this guy, this engagement pre-wedding is actually the union of two families. So it's more than
mm,
just the couple, which I think is
absolutely.
great. It really invokes that sort of sense of community and culture, where two individuals, yes, are coming together, but along with them are the families that are then going to be celebrating together.
And it just builds that momentum towards the big day. So yeah, absolutely.
Lots of positive energy and attention on you there. So, okay, so that's sort of pre-wedding. Was there anything else sort of leading up to the big day that carried a lot of meaning for you?
I suppose there's lots of ceremonies that are carried out during the week of the wedding. And, you know, I think when you're getting married, just like you're kind of entering any other chapter of your life, you want to do a bit of research. You know, you want to know what it means. You want to ask people, why do we have to do this? Or why, you know, why does my fae have to wash my hair, you know, the night before my wedding? Like, what does all this mean? And I think I'm quite a curious. I'll ask those questions to my
and
mom.
Most people are these days, right? We're constantly searching for meaning. So
exactly.
And did you find answers?
And if it adds value, I did. Because there's this sort of misconception in the West that you know, this turmeric face masks, they're kind of used. So, for instance, the holy ceremony or the biti, as we call it.
Yeah, so I'm not looking forward to this. So they rub a holy mix all over you, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's seen as, what's the reason behind that? Because I think I know the answer, but you're going to tell me it's wrong. It's about trying to make you look fair and lovely and light skinned.
Not quite.
that would seem quite, I don't know, is that shallow? There's got to be a deeper meaning.
Yeah, exactly. There's always a deeper meaning to all of our kind of rituals, ceremonies. It's just about kind of going to the right person or reading the right text and finding out what it actually means. And that's exactly what I thought. And I was actually quite against that, as you would be, right? Plus, you know, I don't want to have all that on my skin the day before my wedding, and, you know, all these sorts. And actually, it was after speaking to my mom, you know, she kind of said, well, back in those days, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, you can't have a bubble bath, you can't go to a spa for your treatment.
You don't have a makeup artist in
the
village, right?
Exactly. This is the kind of the next best thing, and the haldi has antiseptic properties, so it's actually for cleansing purposes. It's got nothing to do with making you feel fair or whatever it is,
right?
And beautiful. And actually, that simple explanation, it just kind of changes that trajectory, doesn't it? And you want to kind of embrace that ritual.
And it's also the using, you know, raw natural products almost.
Yeah, absolutely.
That sort of, you're connected then with the environment, and it's all sort of ecological. And turmeric itself, you know, we know it's the famous chai tea latte and all that kind of stuff, but even not to drink it, to actually apply it to your skin and the rest of it.
And there's so many different colors that are used throughout our wedding ceremonies. The color yellow actually represents prosperity, good health, fertility, all those things. So there is deeper meaning to all these rituals and these practices. Yeah.
Brilliant. And that's what we're trying to do here today. We're trying to uncover the meaning of marriage at the Hindu Women's Festival with Beyond the Bindi. So again, Sumit Sharma here hosting, very privileged, speaking to Puja Patel about all things marriage. So, okay, we spoke about turmeric there. Maybe the actual ceremony itself on the day, was there anything else that you remember or stood out to you? Or was there a particular ceremony that you thought, wow, you know, that's really interesting?
And there's, I mean, your whole day is filled with, you know, specific ceremonies, rituals, and we opted for a Vedic ceremony. So kind of anything that we felt didn't really add value to our day, and it was just adding time and, you know, resources, we kind of just cut back on that, but still keeping to that meaning. And, you know, Vedic.
Why is that important to you? Why is that Vedic side of things important to a young Hindu woman like yourself, or even for someone out there that's looking to get married soon? Why would you point them towards a Vedic ceremony?
The Vedic ceremony is the union between the masculine and the feminine entities. So it's not necessarily genders, but it's this union between two energies. And we wanted to make sure we kept it I wouldn't say simple, but we wanted to keep the essence of our ceremony there, and kind of, you know, I mean, this day and age, we had an afternoon wedding, so we knew it was going to be a really long day as well. So we had to think about all the logistics as well.
Sure.
You know, traveling back from Birmingham to London, everything had to be kind of considered. But
You know,
that part.
we're talking about you're talking about a 2-hour journey here. So I imagine, you know, a few
Yeah,
generations ago, the logistics of traveling across Bharat would have been a lot more challenging.
absolutely, yeah,
But I guess
yeah,
what we're saying here is, you know, we need to apply some sense of reality, and we live in a modern world. But it was very important to you to maintain the Vedic aspects, the true essence of what the meaning of marriage is. And I think the translation is vivaha sanskar, right? And
mm,
sanskar, I don't think sanskar has a good translation in English. But if I was to try, you know, like a poignant moment in your life, almost like a paradigm shift, or a key marker within one's life of importance. And I think the Hindu civilization celebrates the wedding or the union
absolutely,
of two souls, like you're saying it, in that
yeah,
vivaha sanskar. So that's
yeah,
very interesting. So I'm actually going to have a Vedic ceremony too. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm speaking to my Panditji very soon.
yeah,
Take me through some of the details. So
absolutely.
was there something? So here I've got a question for you, and I
Mm-hmm.
only really sort of understood this when we spoke about it recently. Is that something like rice is used a lot during a Hindu wedding ceremony?
Yeah,
I have no understanding why. What's the
yeah.
significance of rice?
So there's a lot of things that are used on the day, a lot of things that are pure and, you know, kind of grounding. Rice is one of them, and rice represents prosperity, happiness, good health. It's at its purest level. Um, so I remember using it, I think 3 or 4 times during the ceremony. So one was, you know, we put it sort of in the Agni. So the Agni is sort of the ultimate witness of our
In,
wedding.
into the
Yeah,
fire, yeah.
absolutely. Yeah. And you know, to call upon Agni. And then
That's beautiful
I
within itself. So you're saying that the fire, the force of nature itself,
yeah.
is the ultimate witness to this union.
And when it's your wedding, you'll notice it will crack. You know, the flame will go higher when you put the fire the rice in. So that's something you'll remember on the
Brilliant,
day.
brilliant.
And again, I think for the woman, for the bride, one of the most emotive parts was my viday. And you know, part of the ceremony was to throw rice and not to look back, actually throw rice behind my shoulders, and my mom would catch it in her sari. And you know, even thinking about it now, I was quite emotional. But what that represented was, you know, Lakshmi has left her maternal home and is now going to a marital home, but she's not forgotten, you know, her maternal home, and she's still blessing them with happiness and prosperity. And actually, even when I entered my marital home, and a lot of families, and you might notice this again when your wife comes through your home, she'll throw rice in. So this idea
Okay,
of
so throwing rice behind at your parents' home and then throwing it in front of you
yeah,
in your new
yeah,
home. It's almost like
yeah,
you're leaving little bits of yourself.
bits exactly. That's actually what my pundit said to me. You're leaving sprinkles of you everywhere. So I
Ah,
thought that was so beautiful, actually. And again, it's what adds meaning to your wedding, doesn't it? To your
yeah, that's
yeah.
very powerful. And rice is, you know, something quite staple, and you know, we can all relate back to that. That's
Mm-hmm.
very nice. That's very nicely put.
Yeah, yeah,
Is there anything else then, sort of, you know, again, I'm thinking about preparing for my wedding, and there's a whole list of things I need to get, and number one on the list is Mangal Sutra.
yeah.
And look, you know, I don't know enough, clearly, but to me that's just a necklace, a present that we have to give the bride.
And hey,
Happily,
look, that's what I thought before as well. I
okay,
actually thought it was a gift from my in-laws to me,
right,
until we actually sat with our priest and, you know, discussed it in more depth. Um, and actually it has so much more, and you know, across India it's got different, you know, connotations, different meanings, but for us it was this idea. So the black bead represents Shiv, the gold bead represents Shakti, and it's again this union of those two masculine and feminine qualities or entities coming together as one into this new life. So that's what it represented for us. And when you kind of, and I suppose you'll go through this process, when you kind of discover more and more about certain ceremonies, it adds so much more meaning and value to your life. So yeah, that's what it for us. That's what it represented.
Not just a pretty necklace, but deep meaning of Shiv and Shakti. You know, the masculine and female energies that are, and the union of two souls coming together. That's very beautiful, and it's a celebration of those two people as well, right? It's almost like there is so much power within these two individuals, but it's when they come together, when that union happens, when this couple embarks on the path of marriage together, you know, they'll live a much more fulfilled and powerful life together. You know, they're sharing in their energies. That's beautiful. That's very nicely put. Okay, so, you know, anything else on the day that happened, or any misconceptions that we can bust? I think that's really important, right? With the Hindu Women's Festival, the first time we're doing this, let's unpick some of those things that, you know, it's not quite right. People haven't figured it out yet. Is there something like that?
Yeah. So we talked about the Haldi ceremony. You'll also be, I suppose, from the groom's part, be doing the Sindoor ceremony.
Okay, yeah. Let's talk about Sindoor. So what's that?
Yeah. Again, the question I asked before I got married too. So in my head, I thought Sindoor was just a normal red powder that just signifies a married woman. It kind of, you know, it's like that signing on the dotted line, you're now a married woman. Okay. And again, that's what was kind of taught to me growing up. But actually, when we kind of discussed it with our Pandit, there's a little bit more of a scientific meaning to it, actually. So the red powder is a mix of turmeric, lime, and mercury powder. So it's got very cooling properties. So when it's applied at a pressure point to kind of, I suppose, help you to be a little bit more rational in decision making.
You want to enter this relationship with a cool, level head.
Exactly. Okay. And I have a kind of, like you said, a fulfilling kind of happy marriage. So that's another kind of thing that I learned across.
A lot of these things link back to sort of science, really, right?
Yeah.
And being in touch with the natural elements and raw products that we have.
Absolutely.
So I think the Hindu civilization does that very well. And all of these, whatever you want to call them, rituals, ceremonies, things that we carry out have a deeper meaning. And we can trace them all back. I think all it takes is a simple conversation with either your parents or your panditji or priest or whoever is helping you officiate, or even tuning in to something like this. We uncover a little bit more. So we've gone through a few different things here: Sindoor and Mangal Sutra, and so there's one big thing, and I think this is a stereotypical view of looking at a Hindu wedding. And hopefully you're going to help us understand that a little bit further. So Kanyadan, as much as I understand it, is the bride's parents or the bride's father giving away his daughter to another family.
Yeah.
Is that right?
So again, this is something that we discussed with our Pandit as well, because like yourself, that's what I thought. It's this idea of me being given away from one family to another, and it almost seems like you're then a burden, right?
Yeah, like almost as if you're some type of property that you can be transferred between, you know. And I don't. Okay, let's see what you say, because hopefully you break the myth.
And again, like you said, it's a misconception.
Sure.
The idea of a kanyadan is, you know, you are the Lakshmi of your parents' home. And to be giving such a, for this Lakshmi now to be starting the new chapter of her life, with another family, obviously that's going to be extremely emotive for the parents. So it's this idea of giving permission to saying, no one's actually good enough for my daughter, but I will trust you, and I will allow you to kind of look after her. And I think, generations ago, like you said, people were traveling from villages to villages. There wasn't like these, public modes of transport or cars that we have now to go and see our parents back and forth.
So I guess logistically, that kind of makes sense. You'll be traveling for hours back. So the concept of giving at a logistical level, perhaps you can reason with, but at a deeper sort of community, societal level, I spoke about this recently on the VM podcast on the topic of womanhood and how we believe that women are actually emancipated now. We're on a level playing field. It's not quite how it was maybe a few years ago, a few generations ago. So do you feel like you were given away, or was it different? Are you shared? How does Kanyadan apply to you in your life?
Yeah, so like if we live in a modern world now, don't we? I actually had to travel back and forth from work anyway. So I was coming to see my parents then anyway. And I think for us, what it meant was I was being shared across two families, and I didn't see a problem. I thought actually that's so much more meaningful. And I think that's how, and sometimes we do have to evolve and slightly what that specific ceremony meant maybe hundreds of years ago is changing now. But the essence of it hasn't kind of diminished. It's still there. So that's how I kind of,
that prosperity, that wealth within one's family, and the ability to share that with another. I remember going to a wedding a few years ago, and the father of the groom during his speech was talking to his new daughter-in-law to say, we are blessed that you were born to enter into this household. We've been waiting for you to arrive for however many years. It's beautiful that within the Hindu civilization, and especially when it comes to marriage, a young lady is seen to have two homes. The home that she's brought up in and grown in, and the home that she'll eventually marry into. And it's what I'm trying to state here is that it's her home. She was always destined to come here. And during the wedding ceremony, it's a welcoming of that individual into her home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful.
Absolutely.
So look, you've been married a little while. You've understood more than I have, at least, the meaning of marriage. I'm aware I have a few more lessons to learn. But any teachings, any learnings? Is it worth it? I mean,
it is absolutely worth it. I think, you kind of go through them at any stage of your life, whether you're going to university, start a new job, it's a transition, right? And you've got to be open to and adapt to change. I would say, like, you mentioned I've been married almost 2 years now, and I think you're still going to be learning, right? You're still going to be learning. And both sides of the family, yes, they're very similar, but they're also very different. So adapting to that and embracing that, actually, because there's so much diversity actually within our own families. So that's been really interesting too. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything? So as a young Hindu woman who has got married and entered into a new home, is there any conscious behavior that you've brought with you? Is there anything, are there a set of values or some rituals that you have brought with you into your new home?
I would say yes, in the sense of my ways that I've learned living with my parents. So like you said, habits, or this specific rituals or things like that. Whether I carry them out the same way as my mom did, I don't know, but definitely have adopted those and adopted what's important for my in-law side of the family as well. But I think, looking at it beyond being just Hindu, having that cultural identity, marriage is about embracing each other's qualities understanding each other's strengths and weaknesses, coexisting together, adapting to that change, being open. That's what a marriage is. So you don't have to carry out specific traditional practices or cultural practices, whatever it is that you do in your family. It's just being open and embracing each other's qualities. Yeah,
that's beautiful. So
yeah,
being open and curious and
yeah,
trying to understand. So if there are rituals and ceremonies, let's find out the deeper meaning behind them
absolutely.
and apply them to our lives in this new sort of modern way. But also having respect for culture that has transcended thousands of years and carries that deep, rich, natural, organic sort of feeling behind us. So brilliant. Do you have any words of wisdom for me as I go on to enter? And actually, for the people tuning in at home, if you guys have got stories you'd like to share, we'd be very interested to hear. Maybe drop them in the comments or um, pass on some of your works to Beyond the Bindi for a future collab. But Pooja, what can you tell me? Is there a top tip for trying to understand the meaning of marriage, or as I go forward into my wedding coming up soon, what would you like to share with the Hindu Women's Festival today?
Well, I think, and you might be encountering this, everyone wants to be involved. And I think let people be involved, right? Your marriage is again about this union of two families, two communities coming together, and everyone's got a role to play. And actually in work, we call this everyone's business. So it is everyone's business. And actually there's so much beauty in that. So if someone's going to offer you, to do something for you, just let them do that for you for that day. So yeah, I think allowing everyone to be involved and enjoying that journey with you guys.
And that's beautiful too, right? The community coming together to, in their own unique way, coming to help celebrate the union that you're about to embark on with another individual, and that union between the two souls, the two individuals, the two families, and everything else around that. Brilliant. Thank you very much, Pooja, for helping me understand the meaning of marriage on the Hindu Women's Festival here today with Beyond the Bindi, trying to understand what the Dharmic civilizational lens looks like around the conversation with womanhood. How does Hindu philosophy suggest we cultivate spirited women, ensure the cohesion and collaboration between genders, and what are the most sustainable narratives around femininity, especially when it comes to the meaning of marriage, the vivaha sanskar, as it's known in the Hindu civilization. Thank you very much for tuning in. I hope you've learned something here today. If not, let me know. There's still lots more to learn, and maybe once this is aired, I would be that much closer to understanding the meaning of marriage. Thank you very much. Namaste.